pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The second order of business is to adopt tonight's agenda, and I don't believe there are any amendments to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The next item is audit presentation. So I'll turn it over to you guys and Tim.
Does everyone have a copy of the audit on their desk? We're ready for you, Tim.
Alrighty, perfect. Still coming through clearly here?
Yep, good.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for allowing us to perform your audit. Yes, my name is Tim White with Quest CPAs. We appreciate the opportunity to present on the audit tonight, and I also appreciate you moving in toward the beginning of the meeting. It's always nice, and gives me a chance to get back to more audits tonight. So, to start out, the report is going to be in similar format as in years past. I'm going to talk briefly about the actual audit reports that we present to the school, and then wrap up by talking kind of brief overview of the finances and how the school performed for the year. And as always, please feel free to interrupt with questions or anything. I think I can hear some of you, whoever is closest to the microphone, and so may need a spokesperson, but happy to take a break and take any questions as we go along as well. So we're going to start on page 1 of the audit financial statements, the independent auditor's report. And I did want to take a second as well and make sure I say thank you to Kendall for her hard work. This has been quite the summer for everyone, and our hearts go out to everyone who's been dealing and been affected by the fires in the area. And despite everything going on, she was still very responsive and working remotely and doing everything she could to make sure we had what we needed and answering questions. So I really appreciate that during a pretty difficult time for everybody. So thank you to Kendall, great work. That being said, going to the audit report. So again, the independent auditor's report, this first report, is the most important one. This, that's why it's in the front of the financial statements, because it's where we express our opinion on the financial statements. There's right there on the first page, the second paragraph from the bottom. It's what we call an unmodified opinion. Just meaning that the financial statements are reliable, they're accurate, and that they appropriately represent the financial position of the school. So this report has a lot of wording. It talks about what our responsibility is, what management's responsibility is, but the most important thing is that paragraph where we express that clean, that unmodified opinion. And so that's the best opinion that the financial statements can have. So great news. The next report, the other report in the financial statements, is all the way in the back on page 41. Page 41 is the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting. So what this report says is that as part of the audit every year, we look at the internal controls that are in place at the school, and we don't actually test them. We just use them to help guide our audit planning. And so if there was an issue with internal controls that we noted while we were reviewing them, this report is where we would bring them up. But we don't actually issue an opinion on those internal controls. This year, if you go to the very last page, you'll see the summary of what one of the findings that we did have last year related to some of those year-end journal entries that we gave to the school, them not being made and things like that. But that issue was resolved, taken care of, and so we're required to show it one more year as a prior year finding, but that's gone away. So this page will go away starting next year. So other than that, everything is excluding that because that wasn't part of this year. Everything is in great shape. No issues with internal controls or anything. So those are the two reports that I wanted to discuss. Are there any questions so far before we look at the overview of the financial statements?
It's not.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Easy crowd. So page 10 is where we're going to end up. Page 10 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. So again, as a reminder, what this page tells us, it's basically an income statement. The top section shows all of our revenues coming in to the school, broken down by major funds. We've got the general fund, child nutrition, bond, R&I fund, and then a summary of all the other non-major funds. So it shows revenues broken down by each major fund. The next section is all of our expenses for the year. And then finally, the last section is where we go over our ending fund balance, where we started, whether we had a profit or a loss, and then where we end our carryover to go into future years. So looking at the general fund first, you can see the third number from the bottom there is our net change in fund balances. That's our net income for the year. All of our revenues minus expenses, this is what we were left with for the year, $12,000. So we didn't have a loss. We maintained our fund balance, which is great. This year we did see quite a few schools that ended up having pretty big profits just due to one-time funding that the schools have received and things. And on that note as well, there were some capital expenditures as well, about $170,000. And so those one-time expenses, if you exclude those, then our profit would actually be a little bit more like $180,000 for the year. So it's good. It's a lot better. Last year we were in a bit of a loss position. And again, just kind of a reminder, we don't want to see a trend of losses. And so, last year was, again, that was the first year we looked at it. This year, we don't have a loss. We actually ended with a profit. But the one recommendation would just be to kind of keep an eye on that as well. With those one-time funding, that one-time funding coming from the state, we just want to make sure that we stay on top of expenditures and make sure that we don't overspend it in the fund, spend more than we take in. The ending fund balance there in the general fund, $1.6 million. We like to apply what we call the operating reserve to determine what that number actually represents, which is basically how many months worth of expenses does that $1.6 million actually cover. And it's not a super scientific formula or anything. We just take our annual expenses divided by 12 to get a rough average monthly expense. It comes out to about 4.5 months. So overall, our carry forward is in a good spot. We recommend anywhere from 3 to 5 months for an operating reserve, just to help cover any incidental costs that might come up that were not budgeted or planned for, and just to make payroll and to make sure that normal operating costs are covered until the July 15th payment and the August 15th payment come in. But again, 4.5 months is great. It's a great spot to be in. So as long as that doesn't drop, we got no concerns there with the general fund. Moving on to the child nutrition, I'll just talk about these other non-major funds real fast, other major funds, and then we will wrap things up and let you guys continue on with the meeting. But child nutrition fund, again, looking at that third number from the bottom, we actually turned a profit in that fund as well, which is very impressive. All the schools that we've audited so far, almost all of them have experienced losses in their child nutrition fund. with inflation, with costs going up, and with federal reimbursements for lunch not keeping up with that. Most schools, ever since that COVID additional funding dried up, most schools have been really facing a tough position there. But so the fact that we ended the year with a profit actually is a really good sign that the Child Nutrition Fund is operating well and doing a good job. So good work there. Bond, the R&I stands for redemption and interest. So what this fund is for is it shows our payments to the bond, our principal and our interest payments to the bond. The only thing to report here is that it's operating as it should. It has its ending fund balance to pay the upcoming payment due for the bond. That's one of the big things that we look at for that fund. So no issues there. All's in good shape. And then finally, a quick summary of the other non-major funds. This is all of our local, state, and federal funds summarized here. Nothing specific to report in those, other than they're all in good shape. There are no negative fund balances. Everything is functioning as it should in each of those funds. And as a side note, one of the federal funds that's included in that summary is the ESSER 3. That's pretty much the last of our the school's COVID funding that we have unspent. At the end of the year, there was about $50,000 ESSER 3 money left over. I'm not sure if that's been spent since or if it will be. I think it runs out maybe December of this year, something like that. But anyway, then once that's spent, that's the end of our COVID reserves, and things will kind of just go back to normal as they were for the school. That being said, that which wraps up everything that I wanted to cover in the finances. Are there any questions on this segment or anything else on the audit that maybe I didn't cover?
I guess we don't have any questions.
Okay. All right, that's perfectly fine. I will not complain about that. But I also am happy to help answer any questions that do come up. So as always, please feel free to reach out to me if you're up late one night and you can't fall asleep and you're inside really up or you want to know things. Please feel free to reach out. This is our bread and butter, so there's nothing we like more than talking about it. So happy to help answer any questions. You can call or email me or contact me through Kendall as well. So. Otherwise, thank you very much. I appreciate the time, and that's everything I've got.
All right, thank you, Kendrick.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks. You all have a good rest of your meeting.
Okay, no public comment. Okay. Next is the action item to approve the consent agenda, which is the minutes from August, bill payments, classified personnel action. I'll give you guys a little time to look at the bills.
all of our
expected.
buildings. The only reason there's two is because the bus garage is right separate.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Been moved and seconded that we approve tonight's consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Information report, to start out with Kendrick.
Happy to report we're no longer Wells Fargo customers. Those bank accounts have been closed. Any balances that were left were transferred to the appropriate ICCU accounts. We received our first foundation payment August 15th, so our LGIP general is over $3 million. Plant facility, property taxes, I believe, are due in September, so we'll start seeing some plant facility money roll into that account. I have a new fund request for the LGIP for Don to sign on his desk. This is where we're going to keep that modernization facilities fund. We're estimated to get $1.36 million, I believe. And I believe we discussed leaving it in the LGIP to grow some interest on it. And then as payments come up that we want to use that modernization fund for, we'll just transfer it to ICCU to make those payments. I believe Dawn, last board meeting, brought up wanting to know when are we at our highest in the LGIP and when are we at our lowest money-wise. So I put together a spreadsheet. It should be the next page in that report. Starting in 2020, that just kind of goes over all 5 foundation payments made on the 15th every 3 months, how much that payment was, and what our fund balance was. There's a trend where basically every year we start out with the most money and we end with the least amount of money in that LGIP account. The only kind of outlier to that was 23-24, and I looked back and I thought, well, why wasn't August our highest? I had transferred $250,000 to start our ICCU account that month. Otherwise, it would have been our highest. So that's the only difference there. Budget updates. There's the spreadsheet, just our monthly budget spreadsheet. All budgets are looking great, except the plant facility is down right now just because of the parking lot, and then obviously our bond is down because we made that bond payment in July. Just a miscellaneous update. I'm working with Justin on our transportation reimbursement claim for 23-24. We received $185,000 for the 22-23 school year. Last year's claim will be complete by the October board meeting, and I will give you an update then. And with those transportation reimbursement, we're getting reimbursed for salaries, mileage, bus wear and tear, etc. Any questions? So that's being paid for with our ELC money. We actually I left that meeting to come to this meeting. That's a grant through the ELC.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be about $38,000 to pay for the mileage and that bus driver for the year. And as a preschool parent, I can tell you it's been a successful week of riding the bus. So it's been pretty cute to see those little 4-year-olds get off the bus at the elementary school.
So on our bus reserve fund, we paid for the, when did we pay for the bus? 22-23?
We did, yep.
Okay, so we paid it.
Well, we paid for the bus in June of this year.
We ordered it.
Yeah.
You must have encumbered, did you encumber the money then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. That's the fund we transfer $40,000 into each year. Yeah.
And that, so everybody, and I refresh my memory, where does that $40,000 come from?
It's a general fund transfer. I
So
think,
so it's a general fund transfer,
Yeah, I think
basically a
it's-
subsidizing buses.
yeah, yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Dan, do you have a report?
Yep, brief one this month. We went ahead and CompuNet is getting ready. They've got the parts for the 2 doors to get them installed. We're waiting on wire molding of all things. That's being held up. As soon as those are in, they'll be out to get those last 2 doors put in. My world, I am now switched to maintenance mode, so I'm focusing on getting help desk tickets done and fixing Chromebooks. And we went through, Justin and I worked on radios this week, getting some things changed and kind of fine-tuned on that. We're also working on fine-tuning all of our new systems that we got over the summer too, and then getting that all documented, and then trying to get some training done. So just as busy, just a little bit different. So that's all I've got. If anybody's got any questions.
Any questions for Dan? All right, principal's report.
All right. Everybody has a copy, I believe. Our enrollment is exactly the same that it was last year at this time. So I'm pretty pleased with that. There's our numbers. This year, we were in 14, and so then you can just see, it kind of just gave you a comparison from last year. Our attendance right now, 93%. We want that at 96%. We're a little bit low. You can see the breakdown of the classes. I had 2 out-of-school suspensions so far. Preschools in full blown, and we have 10 students right now. We're going to be getting a few more during the rest of the year. Our before and after school, we're flashing through 46 students before and after. We're pleased with that number. Our vitally important goals, of course, we have those in reading, math, and we try to get our attendance at that 90% each month. We had an open house on the 4th. We had 57% attendance with students and parents. I've attached our IRI results. We start off with the first of the year to see what that number is, and each month I try to compare, or I do compare. Month to month, we want the red to be shrunk down to 5% if we can. We also attached our budget, after-school budget, and our calendar for the year, so you can kind of take a look as to, we get that 119,901 each year, and we have this year and next year remaining, and then I'll apply for the grant. Okay. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
So do you think you have the resources, like, for the 4th graders to try to get them up a little bit?
Here to school, or get them, yeah, you know, it just honestly depends on the students and our numbers and
But my question is do you need more resources to try and
oh,
improve
get that number up. I'd have to take a little look at the students. The population of special ed is pretty high in that grade level, so.
So do you feel that you're servicing the special ed students enough that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Actually, this last year, Linda Newbell had purchased a program, an intensive program, and had our special ed and our Title I teachers involved in that, and they're teaching a new curriculum. So I'm really kind of hopeful. We have a coach online that she's observing once a week to make sure that our lessons are spot on, that we're moving the kids with fidelity and intensity. So I'm pleased. Hopefully we'll see that number grow.
For year, is this the third year of a new curriculum for the reading?
For the reading, oh, for the CQLA, yes.
Yeah, okay. Wait, so this is the year that we should
Yeah,
see
so
the,
some growth. And our teachers do really love it. Yeah.
Any other questions for Dory?
Thank you.
All right, Superintendent's report.
Okay, for the high school, our student of the month category was Awesome Attitude, and our winners were Aisley Neese and Hallie Anderson. Discipline report, we had 6 referrals over the past month, a couple suspension and zero bus referrals. Our attendance was pretty good compared to the last couple of years so far. Our junior high was at 97%, and our high school was at 94.5%. If we could keep that up, that would be a big deal for us. Junior high sports have started up, and I included our participation numbers there for activities. We did have some cheerleaders sign up this year, so we haven't had that for a couple of years, so we had enough to do that this fall. And our Remember Cross Country is in a collective with Deary, and we had one junior high student join that collective. For the high school, we again got the Clearwater Paper Grant. That was $2,000 this year and was offered to the science teachers for labs. Teacher training, we have October 4th coming up, and Shane Beam, who is the Director of Teaching and Learning at the Fairbanks District, and is a former peak trainer, will be here. So we're just kind of finalizing the details right now of that training, what that's going to look like. I included a letter from Attorney General Labrador to Superintendent Critchfield. I won't read it up, I'll let you read it, but it's just related to Title IX and recent activities in Idaho. District enrollment, overall we are down a little bit this year. I included our enrollment up there at the top. So the elementary is steady right now compared to where they were last year. We're down about 12, so we do expect another 3 or 4 to leave in the next month or 2. So we're down quite a bit. So it's just something to continue to monitor. And I will turn it over to Amy with ISBA business.
I just have, of course, our yearly conference with ISBA is down in Boise. I talked about it last month, but it's November 6th through the 8th, which is a Wednesday through a Friday. I kind of will need a head count after this meeting ends of who can actually make it and who needs to be polled. I can do that. We already have reservations set, but I just need to know before October 1st, but I'd like to know at the end of the meeting. We also have a Region 2 meeting coming up if anyone's interested in. It's being held at the Moscow Middle School Library, and I have a little printout. It also probably came in your guys' inbox in your email, and it's there. It's where trustees can get and meet and talk and go over, I guess, other legislative issues and everything else with that. If anyone's interested in that, you can sign up with me or through your own device, through your own email, if you want to attend. Does anyone have any questions? That's all we have. I'll get a head count at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
Any questions for Steve? Okay, are there any trustee reports? Seeing none, I guess we'll just go into
Where people are complaining, is that what that's at that time?
Pardon?
Is this where people come to us and complain, is this where we talk about this? Or is it later?
Do you have anything you want to bring up? No?
do you have anything? Yeah, do you have anything?
I just had a guy complain about one of the bus drivers.
Oh, not
No,
meeting.
no,
That's
we
fine.
can't talk about
That's what I was asking, if this was that time.
I can chat with you after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to?
Yep.
Okay, first action item is to consider the 10-year facilities plan, so let's keep talking about that.
Okay, I'll start with what I wrote there. The software program that the state developed for this facility fund is where we entered information. So there was a rubric that the state put out that Justin used to evaluate the buildings, different aspects of the buildings. And once you put that information in, it spits out dollar amounts based on the information you put in the rubric. And at the end, it shows you, over the next, say, 10 years, what's it going to cost to bring everything up to good or perfect. That's not the amount of money that we actually get. Like, that dollar amount is like millions and millions of dollars. What we actually get is what we put into the 10-year plan. So when we create the 10-year plan, and you can see it's a very rough plan. I mean, it's probably simpler than our normal 10-year plan. But we put in those areas, system areas, dollar amounts over the next 10 years to allocate towards those things. And then we can adjust it, of course, as we go. So priorities change or whatever. But it's a starting place. And what we did with the 10-year plan is we essentially looked at how much money we're going to get and how can we make this money last over 10 years, and which isn't necessarily the priority, but that's how we did it. And where do we think we'll need it as we go along, just based on what we know about our buildings and so forth. So this is what it came up with. And one of the things that I can't remember if I mentioned it in when I sent out the board packet, but one thing the board could consider too is if the board wanted to build a bus barn on our campus and move it onto one of our campuses, now could be a time for that. So anyway.
Do we rent that?
Yeah. We don't rent it for very much money.
That's
I think it was $1.
I will say I've never paid rent for the bus girl.
Oh, was it $1 for 100 years or 99 years?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, just something to consider. No decision is needed tonight, of course, but anyway. This, as you can see, does not include that. It's just there's a chunk of money included in this for both buildings for HVAC, for immediate needs, and then the rest of it is maintaining for the most part.
So the HVAC there in the first year, I assume that's for a boiler, replace the boiler.
Well,
Is that
just to look at different options.
oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe the split mini ducts in the rooms, or maybe getting away from the boiler,
Oh,
but
something.
yeah, something to get that going in a better direction.
So about the 90,000 high school.
That's for the units on the library and the gym.
So that'd be, are they still having problems with the leaking and stuff over at the elementary with the system that we have? So that would probably be a good thing to look at.
Yep.
Probably save us money in the long run too. Fixing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, putting the pipes in the ceiling probably wasn't the best plan.
Other questions?
Something to think about is that I don't know where we would get the money to build a new bus barn if we didn't use this money. And I'm not sure that is really meeting our needs down there. It'd be a lot better for Justin if he was on campus than having to go down and back all the time.
We have, like, if you go out there and look, and I looked with Dawn and Ryan, there's space right there on this side of the greenhouse. There's plenty of space. Just take out that fence, a few trees. You only lose like 3 or 4 parking spots. You could put in 8 bays. You could put in a bay for every bus, add on to that pole building. or do something with that, to make that a shop area, enclosed shop area with, a place to work on buses, a space for the bus drivers, a bathroom for the bus drivers, is what, that could look like. Justin talking to a builder as far as like what we kind of be looking at there, and he said about 225. So down the road, something to think about.
I figured that's not concrete floors. Gravel or
That's
whatever.
gravel. Yep.
Even in the enclosure, or you concrete that?
The enclosure went by it.
You concrete.
The enclosure would be concrete, yeah, but the bays, that's with gravel and open bays.
Could you, this is my ignorance question, Don, so you talk about money and funding. If we built that, is there a way where you use the enclosed bay for like an automotive class for the kids? Does that open any more funding sources or ability if it becomes a quasi-educational facility? Like Lewiston is the Atlee Center. Obviously that got funded, but is there a way that we can make that quasi-educational? I don't know.
Something to look at, yeah, something to look at.
So the funding of that, just like we did the funding way back in the day when we did the gym and all the big remodel and stuff, is that something that we could put in a package deal for go to voters?
Yeah, from a bond,
Or you
Yeah.
might want it.
And add that with,
For a bond for what?
to help build
The bus garage.
the bus garage and
Oh,
with a bond.
oh, gotcha. Well, there's plenty of money here. If the board decided they wanted to move that bus barn onto campus, there's plenty of money here for that.
What's your feeling on that? Is it okay there? I mean, does it seem like it's a out of the way thing, or is it?
Well, I
The
mean,
buses don't fit in that.
yeah,
That's the word.
Oh, really?
Buses don't fit the one.
I don't think I've ever really checked it
That's
out.
why they're parked outside.
I mean, the downside is that they're parked outside,
Yeah.
and Justin has to go back and forth. It's not on campus.
Hmm.
The plus would having him on campus and Justin being able to.
You have the security as well.
And there's, security isn't.
Sure, yeah, sure.
If it was up here, we could get some cameras on it and, do more.
So,
We don't own the land down there, but we own the building. The old bus garage, right?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. The city would probably want it.
looking into the details of like these funds, it looks to me when you read that all that stuff that those funds could be used for something like that, but we'd have to make sure and stuff. Anyway, just an idea. If approved, then this 10-year plan and signature page would be submitted tomorrow, and first payment I think come out in October. I think the state bonded, I think maybe today for.
I believe so. I will say every school district in the state of Idaho is taking it as a lump sum, and they were not expecting that. I don't know why they weren't expecting that. So the bond timing, I don't know, and what percentage are we going to get of our fund at what time to be determined, I think so.
I heard today maybe like 60-70%.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's a bigger
I think
number
they
than
went
I
out
was
for
expecting.
750 million today maybe.
Wow.
So hopefully October it would happen.
Yeah, and if you guys, I know we talked about the LGIP, I think that just makes the most sense to leave it in there with interest rates right now.
And what's the plan for the interest? Does that go to the general fund or?
Yeah, yep, that was a question I asked in June at the IASBO conference, and they were shocked, I think, that the question was asked, but everyone in the room wanted to know, and interest will just be like treated as all of our other interest in the LGIP. It'll just be an income source.
What is the interest? What's it paying for currently?
Right now we're at 5.3%.
So could we earmark that for maintenance if we wanted to?
You do whatever.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a general fund, it's pretty flexible.
Or let me rephrase that, should we earmark that for maintenance because it's coming from the maintenance dollars that we got?
I mean, the interest can just stay in the school modernization fund account. Even though it's a 10-year plan, it has to all be expended. So that would kind of be the only question I would have is, does all the interest we've made have to be expended in that 10 years? That's something I can find out too, but I guess my thought would just be to, if we're making interest every month, let's just keep reinvesting it in the LGIP fund. We'll have to, in the audit each year, it'll be a line item, but yeah.
I just didn't know if we thought we should just enhance our maintenance program by using that, or the general fund had a pressing.
Well, I mean, you're just moving from cup to cup.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in the end, that money that's in the general fund gets budgeted. So it just kind of depends on how much you want to budget towards the different line items. It just makes your balance a little bit higher, so you can kind of do with that whatever you want with the budget.
I don't have a preference, it was just a question. It was just a thought, let's just think out loud.
Yeah, for the field house, Ron, we spent that with general fund balance money, so we can use general fund money to spend on stuff.
Yeah, pretty flexible.
Any other discussion, comments? Things to think about? Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the 10-year plan as written.
I'll second
We moved and seconded that we adopt the 10-year facilities plan as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, next is the audit report. We need to accept it.
So we've been talked about, so I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 24 audit report.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the fiscal year audit report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And next is consider occupational therapy contract. Steve, could you discuss that?
Yeah, our previous vendor was St. Joe's, and they don't have a person to be able to provide that service anymore. So we were lucky enough through a contact of Heather's. Is that what it was?
Through Tammy Pope, or,
Tammy, yep. So we were able to find somebody, and cost is pretty similar to what we've been paying. Coming up with these services is just getting harder and harder, and probably not going to get easier. So we assumed we were probably going to have to go with eLuma, which is our speech therapy provider, and which is online. But yeah, we got lucky.
So does this person come like a day a week, kind of regularly, or?
Wednesdays.
Okay.
And she serves both the elementary school and the high school that day.
Is she able to attend like some of the IEP meetings, or do you try to schedule that?
Yeah, we would make sure that she would be included in her goals.
If you needed her. Okay. Cool.
She's familiar with our platforms already that we use.
I'll make a motion to approve the occupational therapy contract with Foster and Flourish.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the occupational therapy contract as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Supplemental levy brochure. Any discussion on that?
I passed the example out to everybody to take a look at. We've used a brochure like this over the last few years, and we put it out generally about a month before the election or so. I think you guys should take a look. Any feedback, let me know. Anything you think we should add or take away, that's fine. Just gives people kind of an idea of what the levy does, how much it's going to cost them, what the historical levy amounts have been, what schools in our area have in their, that they run for their levies. Yeah.
So
Just informational.
there's enrollment, I don't know what that, is that just something left over?
Yeah, it's just a piece that I haven't finished yet.
Okay.
Yeah. I had student enrollment on there, but I didn't have current numbers, so I deleted it. I just forgot to delete the heading.
Looks good to me.
And no cell phones on there.
I'll make a motion to approve the supplemental levy brochure.
Second that.
Moved and seconded that we approve the supplemental levy brochure. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The last is policy review, named pronouns and titles, first reading. Do you have any comments on that? One of those things we hope we never have to use. We don't have to adopt it, right?
No, this, and I forgot to put the description of what ISB put on this, but essentially, I'll just go through it. What this does is, it just aligns with current Idaho law. This says a couple things. First off, it says that, and this is a change this year, basically, if a school or school staff are going to identify a kid by a different name, then parent permission is needed. The other piece is that if a school staff member doesn't want to use like a different name or a different pronoun, then they don't have to. That's really what it is. It's just based on stuff from the last legislative session. And you can read it for yourself too, but that's essentially the nuts and bolts of it.
It's just first reading, so if anybody has any questions, then got it out there.
And I can certainly read through it if you want me to.
So the way it was, I mean, you guys are protected pretty well. I mean, in classroom, right? I mean, to the teacher. I mean, if he goes with what we have, then he's, like, feels good about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, generally what happens with policy is that ISBA, who is our policy provider, what they will do is they just, all of these updates that we always have, it's just based on changing law. And they have attorneys write policy based on their interpretation of law as it is right now. So once in a while, though, you'll have policy come across that you don't really need, or maybe some districts feel like they need it and some don't. Most of them are, most of the updates are just based on legislation. Yeah. Sometimes though, policy will come out that isn't necessarily based on Idaho legislation, and it's just kind of the attorney's best guess as to how to keep us out of trouble. Based on maybe something that happened somewhere else or the Ninth Circuit or whatever. But there's no action on this. It's just a reading.
Any other questions on that? Move along. Board member input for future agenda items. Does anybody have anything? If there's nothing, is there a motion to adjourn?
Also moved to adjourn.
I'll second. Moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.